Welcome, fellow horror hounds, and welcome to the latest episode of Talk and Stalk, your unholy home for horror. I'm your host, as always, Barry, and I'm joined today by a special guest, a friend and fellow film fan, Joseph.
Hey, guys.
Glad to have you here, man. Obviously,
thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is actually one episode I'm very excited for. You're actually popping your Talk and Stalk cherry here.
I am popping it, yes.
You are. You can actually say that you've lived now. You know, you've not lived until you've been on Talk and
No
Stalk,
way.
have you?
No
Do you know
way.
what I mean? It's like
This is our version of Cherry Fall.
This is living the dream, man. Living the dream. You know, it's something to tick off the checklist, isn't it? Certainly.
It is.
So yeah, what we're going to talk about today, obviously you're a big horror fan as well, hence why you're on here. Now, we're going to talk about overrated and underrated slasher films. When I say underrated, maybe just films that are slasher movies that are generally overlooked, that really don't get talked about that much. Everyone knows Halloween, everyone knows Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. So we're going to be talking about some of the others that probably deserve a little more attention. Now, I have to preface this as well. This is our personal opinions.
Yep.
I'm hoping this isn't going to cause any riots. I'm hoping we don't end up on people's hit lists. And just because I think something is overrated doesn't mean that's not me saying it's bad. There are things that I deem to be overrated out there that are still good. I just don't maybe love it as much as what the general population does. And as for underrated, I'm not necessarily saying these are the best horror films of all time, but these are films that probably deserve just a little bit more attention, in my opinion. So you're a big slasher fan yourself, aren't you, Joseph?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, love slasher films.
Would you say it's your favourite subgenre of horror?
Yeah. Because as I said, the first slasher film I ever seen was Halloween, so...
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was certainly, as I've talked about before on the podcast, it was certainly kind of the big commercial success of that really kind of helped popularize and essentially kickstart the subgenre, didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to do this systematically. I'm going to talk about an underrated first. Now, I'm willing to bet that this is a film that we both got on our list. This is a film that I think among diehard horror fans, it's well revered, but it still doesn't really get talked about that much. This came out in 1982. It was directed by Jack Shoulder. And this is actually a film that, not your traditional archetypal slasher film. This isn't teens being bumped off one by one or anything like that. This isn't focused on one killer. This is focused on 4 killers. And this actually has what I deem to be one of the greatest casts ever assembled for a slasher movie. Donald Pleasance, Jack Palance, and Martin Landau. And obviously, Joseph, you can now tell me what the film is.
Alone in the Dark.
Yeah. I'm guessing this is on your list as well.
Yeah.
What's your kind of overall thoughts on this movie?
Well, I'll tell you what, when I was getting into horror many, many, many moons ago, it was one of the ones that actually came up in a list, you know, of kind of like we were talking about rarely seen horror films and stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously by now I had seen Halloween and stuff, and I loved Donald Pleasance. So I remembered reading about it and hearing me, that actually kind of sounds pretty cool. And then I seen that great trailer that they put out with Donald Pleasance coming. Yeah.
Yeah, the opening, the intro,
The opening, yeah. And that was enough to sell me, you know. Obviously, the cast and stuff was amazing, you know. So it was kind of like, how do I track this down? And I actually seen it on YouTube. It was cut up in the sub parts and stuff. And even then, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. As you say, it's not your conventional slasher film. No way. But I just love the atmosphere, especially when the guys escape, and then obviously when it gets to night and they're all in the house.
Yeah.
And it's just, and I love the way that the house is. You wouldn't really notice it, you know, unless you know you're looking for it. But the house is full of windows.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot, you know, and it's kind of like when the darkness falls, you're just kind of like looking everywhere and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's a really good slasher film. it really pays a lot more to the characters and what I thought it was going to be, because usually it's just for the kills and stuff.
Yeah, it does. Each of the killers have their own kind of distinct personality in this film, and it focuses on the killers. I mean, whoever thought Pleasance, Palance, and Martin Landau would all be in what is essentially kind of a slasher movie.
Exactly.
It's also interesting as well, because this was released in 82, and there's actually a moment in the movie where one of the killers dons a hockey mask. The very same year that Jason Voorhees got his hockey mask in Friday the 13th Part 3. I'm not actually sure which film came first, but yeah, a hockey mask appearing in the slasher in the very same year. But no, I agree. I like it because it kind of becomes a home invasion film, doesn't it?
It does.
You know, in the final act. But it needs a Blu-ray release.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
It needs to come out on Blu-ray. And I will say this as well. I love the poster to the film.
Great poster.
It's a poster that you actually put on Facebook to promote this podcast.
Yes.
As soon as I saw it, I thought, he's an Alone in the Dark fan, definitely. So I think we definitely both agree on that.
100%.
Again, it's kind of among the diehard slasher fans out there. It does certainly have a good fan following, but I still don't think enough people have probably seen it. So, what's an underrated one for you, or overlooked one for you?
Now this was one that a friend of mine had actually seen and recommended to me when I was getting into the genre, and The Stepfather from 1987.
Okay, interesting. Yes, Terry O'Quinn.
Yeah. And it was a kind of thing where my friend had heard about it because it was based on a true guy who actually, would marry into a widowed family and then murder them and stuff. And I was kind of like, that's nuts, And then my friend had a huge crush on Terry O'Quinn.
Oh, right, yeah.
This was kind of when he was in Lost.
Yeah.
And then so then this all came up through Lost and stuff. But I remember it was easy enough. That was a bare bones DVD I picked up off it, and I watched it, and I absolutely loved it. And then I was checking online to see what, and again, it was just kind of like big die hardcore horror fans only knew about it.
Yeah.
I think it only came and went. It got a really small theatrical release, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then I think that they put it out on VHS, and it done tremendous business in VHS. I mean, through the roof. So then when they came to do Stepfather 2, they said, no, it's good enough for theatrical release.
Yeah.
So.
Because there was another one as well, wasn't there? There was a third movie. Obviously, different actor. Obviously, the way they explained that was with plastic surgery. The remake, which I'll admit, I haven't seen the remake. I haven't seen it, starring Dylan Walsh.
It's okay. It's okay. In this case, for me, it's the original. For me, it's Terry O'Quinn is the Stepfather.
I love Terry O'Quinn.
He's great. He's really great. Very underrated.
He was in a film, actually. It's not a film that we can really talk about on here because it's not a slasher. But the following year, he was in a bit of a hidden gem. It's a Canadian psychological horror film called Pin.
Love Pin.
And he was actually the father in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, now this is interesting because I know I'm going to be in the minority here. I've never classed Stepfather as a slasher film. I know. I'm in. No, but I fully appreciate that people do. But I'm the same person that struggled to classify Silence of the Lambs as a horror movie as well. It's only over the years I've come to kind of recategorize it. But Stepfather, good film. It's one of my mum's favorites, actually. She loves that movie.
Choice.
Yeah,
good choice.
So we're gonna go on to an overrated one now. Now, this isn't a film that I hate. It's okay. I think it's an okay slasher film, but I've heard a lot of people, say it's one of the better slasher films of the era and all that. And it's never been a personal favorite of mine. It's never one that's really clicked for me.
Okay.
That is 1980s Prom Night. Now, I don't know if I'm in the minority here. I like Prom Night. I do like it. I like the whole concept of it. I like the idea of it. I don't know. It's just one of them films. I don't feel it's quite as executed as well as it could have been. It's great for having, Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, she's not actually a scream queen in this, though, is she? She's not on the target.
She's not actually.
No, she's not on the killer's hit list in this movie. I think, it played an important part in the slasher genre, certainly. It kind of, in a way, set the template for these kind of like whodunit college-based slasher movies. I just feel like Prom Night has some pacing issues. And while I appreciate the dance choreography, there's some fantastic music in this film and that.
There is.
There's one dance sequence in particular that, don't get me wrong, it's great. The choreography is great and I love the music, but it just goes on for too long for my liking. And I just find the kills just a little bland. Again, I don't want people, because this film has actually got a great chase sequence in it, though. I will say there's a really good chase sequence. It's just a film that I want to like more than what I do. I've returned to it a few times. I don't mind it. I think it's an okay slasher film.
Yeah.
But it's just one that I've never liked as much as many other people for whatever reason.
Okay.
But how about yourself? Are you a big fan of Prom Night?
Again, well, obviously I found out about it after Halloween because it was kind of like, what else has Jimmy Lee Curtis done? And it was kind of like the next one in line, so to speak. What always threw me about it was the fact that it has Leslie Nielsen in it, and he's serious.
Yeah,
you think he's going to crack something, just a little joke, but he plays it straight down the line, which bravo. But I'll say this about Prom Night. Have you ever seen that great documentary, Rise and Fall of the Slasher film?
I have, yes.
Yes. If you remember, Paul Lynch, that directed Prom Night, actually said that Prom Night was actually conceived as more of a thriller than a horror film.
Yeah.
So I kind of see why, as you were saying, kind of like it needed to twist and turns to kind of make it more horrific,
Yeah.
But no, I completely get what you mean. I understand why people think it's great. It's a good film. It's a bad film. It's great.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's after Halloween, it's the domino effect. They just said, we'll make one of these.
Yeah. I like some of the sequences. Like for example, when the killer is actually giving them telephone calls and, you see the shadow of him on the wall and that. But to me, maybe it's just me. I know there's obviously a red herring in the film, a couple of suspects and all that. I don't know. I worked out who the killer was very early on in the movie as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But that's probably only because we've seen so many horror films. We've seen so many thrillers of the type since then. Since then and that. But no, I think Prom Night's okay. I just don't love it as much as so many other people do. There's actually another slasher film released in the same year that we're going to get onto that I actually like a lot more. But yeah, so what's an overrated one for you?
Okay, now this is one, as we were saying, it was very hard because a lot of these I do love, but this is one that I think some people might be kind of surprised that I have picked, but I'll explain why in a minute, is 1983 Sleepaway Camp.
It's on my list too.
Yeah. Bingo.
Great, man. Yeah, it's actually on my list. And again, I don't want, please, people, don't come at me. Don't unsubscribe, please. We've all got our own. We've all got our own views, and I respect everyone's opinion.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so why Sleepaway Camp then for you?
Well, for me, it's the type of thing where obviously when Friday the 13th came out and was as great as what it was, obviously you knew that setup of the camp was going to just, take off completely. And obviously then you had The Burning, movies like that. I've actually another film that's underrated, which I'll talk about when I get to it. But for me, Sleepaway Camp, I actually find it bland in terms of I don't really engage with the characters.
Okay.
if you know what I mean.
Mm.
Now, not to say that again, it's a bad film. It's well made, and it does it. It's great with its mystery and stuff. But for me, it only picks up with that ending. The ending actually makes it.
Yeah.
But up until then, kind of like with Prom Night, I found the kills bland. There just wasn't much to get me kind of going, get me interested. It's just kind of like a box ticking, it's just like, okay,
Yeah. I think with Sleepaway Camp, the twist ending overshadows the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
People generally don't really talk about the film. They talk about the ending.
Yeah.
And had the ending not have been the big twist and shock that it was, I don't feel Sleepaway Camp would be mentioned anywhere near the amount as what it is.
No, it would be dead and buried.
Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoy it. I do enjoy Sleepaway Camp. It has a cheesy charm to it. It is one of them, I do kind of enjoy the film. I do. But at the same time, I think the reason it has become so popular really is, the reason it's transcended so many other slasher films of the era is because of that twist ending.
Exactly.
Which, again, is kind of like, it wasn't necessarily an ending that was neat or whatever, but I love it for some. There's one guy in it in particular, may rest in peace, because I think he died not long after the movie. I can't think of the actor's name. He plays the head counselor. His acting was so bad in this movie.
Yeah.
He's but at the end of the day, you don't watch these films for the great performances or anything like that, do you? And I mean, there's one scene in the film as well where they're playing baseball, and it just goes on forever.
Yeah.
Like 5 or 6 minutes. I'm like, did we even need to see this scene for 5 minutes of them playing baseball?
Exactly.
But I enjoy it. But no, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think Sleepaway Camp is a little overrated. Down largely to the twist. But yeah. Now, this is an underrated one for me. Now, I'm gonna, great minds and all. I think that you might have this on there. This was released in the late 80s, so this was kind of like towards the end of the golden age. Released in 89, directed by Scott Spiegel. Have you got it?
Yeah.
It's called Intruder.
Yeah. Have you seen my...
I haven't, no. We've entered the Twilight Zone here.
We have.
Intruder's a slasher film I really enjoy. Again, I think among the die-hard ardent slasher fans, this is one that probably doesn't need an introduction, but I still know a lot of people that haven't seen this movie. Ted Raimi's in there, Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, and a blink and you'll miss it appearance at the very end. I love the setting. I love the sense of claustrophobia, the grocery store after hours. It's got some cool kills in it, a couple of very brutal ones, in fact.
Yeah.
Intruder, I think it's a good slasher movie that doesn't really get talked about that much.
Exactly.
Exactly. So you're obviously quite a fan of this one as well.
I love Intruder, and again, this was one that even for me it took a long time to find it.
Yeah.
It was only when I was chatting to a friend, kind of like Sam Raimi and stuff, and they said, "Have you ever seen Intruder?" And I said, "What's that?" And they kind of said, "Don't worry, it's a film that no one has really seen." And it was kind of like, it's hard to find, and for a while it really was kind of hard to get. But then again, I found it online. I think it was on YouTube or something, and I watched it, and I was amazed at how good it was. Because they did say, okay, it's low budget and stuff, kind of. But that's what I kind of find. You see, the low budget ones, they really put off something amazing. Yeah. They really do, because it's kind of like they don't have all this money to throw at the stars and stuff. So they're kind of like, listen, we're going to pay you nothing much, but, it'll look good, And that's what I kind of get with Intruder, I actually like the characters in Intruder. They're actually likable.
Danny Hicks.
Hicks
just knocks it out of the park. In that final act of the film, what is it? Can't you see? I'm crazy about this store.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace. Danny Hicks.
Because
he was in Evil Dead 2, wasn't he? Just a couple of years prior to this as well. Yeah, and they actually reveal him as the killer on the poster art.
Yeah.
On the box, which is really weird. I don't know why they do that, but yeah, in truly good one. So what's an underrated for you then?
Okay. I'm going to go back 1 year till 1988. Maniac Cop.
Okay, interesting. Okay. Do you know what?
Go on.
I haven't seen it in such a long time. It was
Okay.
one that I was contemplating, but I would not be able to make an accurate judgment on it.
Okay.
Okay, so why Maniac Cop?
Again, I was going through a Tom Atkins. That guy is amazing.
Yeah.
Phase, I was kind of like, I'd seen Halloween 3, loved it, and then obviously from the fog and stuff and Escape from New York. But I was just going down, and then I got the 2 Tom Atkins films that I had never seen, which was Night of the Creeps and Maniac Cop. So I it was a flip coin what one was first, and Maniac Cop won.
Yeah.
So watched it, and I actually, again, it was kind of like, this is actually really good, because again, it was buried, kind of hardcore horror fans again knew about it, but general people were kind of like, what? It sounds awful.
Yeah.
I just love the premise, of just this guy as a police officer, and he would just murder people.
Yeah.
And then obviously, there was going to be more to it until, it was revealed at the end of who he really was and stuff. But again, like the cast, like Tom Atkins, Bruce Campbell's in it,
Bruce, yeah.
Richard Roundtree. Yeah, I know. It had some
Shaft.
really, Shaft. It had some really great genre actors in it, and again, some of the gore was amazing in it,
Yeah.
And it was directed by the great William, how do you pronounce his surname? Lustig?
Oh, William Lustig.
Lustig, yeah.
Yeah.
Who directed this little film that no one has seen called Maniac.
Well, we might be getting to that soon. Possibly, yeah.
Possible. But, and when I found out that Bill Lustig was directing it, it was kind of like, yeah, this is going to be good. You just knew, because he really knows how to do a slasher film really well, in my opinion,
Yeah.
But no, I really love Maniac Cop. It's entertaining, it's funny at times, but then when it really needs to be scary and, it builds the tension brilliantly, I think.
Yeah. I need to rewatch this. I do. Okay. I have not seen... I always remember as a little kid going into the VHS store and seeing that front cover of Maniac Cop. I have not seen the film for probably 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so definitely. I'll give you my thoughts, actually, because you've made me want to rewatch it now. So, yeah. And, but yeah, so, all right. So we're on the overrated now. Now, I'll be honest, this almost didn't get on there, because I really like this. But at the same time, a lot of people say this is probably the best in the franchise. And I'll admit, I do think it's one of the best in the franchise. I'm not sure if I'd necessarily say the best, okay? This is where people are probably going to tune out. But please don't. Just hear me out.
There you go.
Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter. Okay. I really like it. I think it is one of the best films in the franchise. Okay, it's great practical effects, courtesy of Tom Savini. I think it has a great climax with Corey Feldman, taking on Jason. Awesome practical effects, him sliding down the machete. It's simply because the only reason I'm calling this overrated, the only reason is that I see it very, very often on the number 1 list, or at least in the top 2 of the franchise. And to me, Friday the 13th Part 4 is really no better than the first or second. That's just in my opinion. As I said, it gave us Crispin Glover as I can say the word, I think, dead fuck. Who ends up getting the corkscrew and that. And I really like it. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not sure if I'd say it's the best. And Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, again, which is great fun. And again, one of the best films of the franchise. But again, sometimes I don't love it quite as much as some other people.
Okay.
And that's the only reason I'm putting them on here. But by no means am I saying these are two bad slasher films. I really like both of these films. But for me, I still like the original the best. The original Friday the 13th.
Can't beat it. Nah. Can't beat it.
But yeah, so that's I'm basically saying it simply because I quite often see him right up the top. And I'm like, yeah, to me, the original film. But Friday the 13th Part 2, I'd put right up there as well.
It's a good film.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on Friday the 13th Part 4? I'm guessing, did that get in on either of your two lists? Or
I had it down as an honourable mention.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. I completely understand why people love it. Okay. It's a really good film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to this, I think it's because when people kind of see the Tom Savini's came back to do the effects, that's a big step up again, because by this point he was the master, I've seen a lot of things, when people talk about why they like Part 4 and stuff, and they're kind of like, well, we like it because they find that the teenagers are actually more likable in this one, which I would agree till a certain point, but I think they're likable in Part 2. Some of them are likable in Part 3, The less said about Shelley in Part 3, the better,
Yeah.
God bless him, he's fun, But, and then they love the fact that they were trying to make it really more serious than had the family, with Tommy, Corey Feldman and stuff in it. And, and they kind of like the atmosphere, it goes very bleak, maybe a little more bleaker than what the other ones did and stuff, but it's, to me, it's another Friday the 13th film. You know what I mean? It's not one of the Oscars,
Yeah.
And I think that, I could be wrong and I'm going to get shot for this, but I think that another reason why a lot of people like it is because based on the premise that it was going to be the last one.
The final chapter, and we got
the final chapter.
Yeah.
I think that, the filmmakers, it's definitely better than Part 3, which Part 3 fans are going to hate me for, but, I think people are kind of like, the film is a little bit better made because of that. They probably wanted to go out on a high.
Yeah.
So, that's probably why they got Tom Savini and stuff back, the writing's a little bit more sharper for me anyway, but yeah, by no means it's a bad film. God, no way. If you want to see a bad film, go to Jason Snacks or Jason Takes Manhattan, or Jason Takes a Cruise,
Yeah. I think it's a perfectly good Friday the 13th film. It is one of the better ones. It is certainly one of the best ones.
Oh yeah,
it's up there. Like you said with the characters, Crispin Glover, I love the dead fuck thing, that guy, because he really starts getting irritated with being called that, doesn't he? And
exactly. And that's the thing about it. You remember the characters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't remember anybody from Part 7.
No.
Like, you remember Tina, but nobody else, know. So you have to give it that.
So what's an overrated for you now?
Okay. Dark clouds are coming over fast, Now, this one, I will know. I actually thought Sleepaway Camp was going to annoy people, but I think this one will kind of trigger a little bit. Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Interesting, because that was kind of an honourable mention for me. I didn't quite write it down. It has been a while since I've seen it. I know it was released in '84, but it's been a while. So why Silent Night, Deadly Night?
Well, I remember getting it on DVD because I remember it being mentioned in Rise and Fall of the Slasher film as being this big hula, back in the 80s with the adverts for it and stuff, scaring kids and that. And I remember watching it when I was a lot younger than I am now. And I enjoyed it then. And then when it was recently released in the UK with Part 2, I was kind of like, I'll pick it up, because it'll be a nice upgrade and stuff. And I rewatched it. And it went down in my book a little bit.
Okay.
And I think because that, I've been very critical now. For me, that there's like two openings to the film. You have when the kid was young,
Yeah.
and then the thing with his mum and dad, and then you've got him when he was in the orphanage.
Yeah.
So you've kind of like two big, massive openings. And then when it gets till, the guy when he's, working in the store at Christmas and stuff, and then he goes off in one, it's, for me, it's just another Halloween knockoff. If you know what I mean, it's just a guy in a costume.
Mm.
I
know they, with this film, from what I recall, as I say, it's been many years, they do build up the character. The film actually takes its time with the character before he becomes a killer, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's just, because as I said, you've got these two big, kind of intros for him, which I suppose what I want to try and say is it's a little bit too long.
Okay.
It's just because I think that now the opening's fine with when you see what happened to his mom and dad and stuff, that's fine. I think the orphanage stuff goes on too long.
Okay.
Maybe it's just me, and I know that pays off later at the end of the film because it kind of goes full circle and stuff. But
yeah,
and again, I found the kills were bland, and I know that a lot of stuff was cut.
Yeah.
From the film, and that for me hurts the film even more. Because it's kind of like, okay, and then it cuts.
I remember the impalement scene where he puts her on the deer antlers. That's a memorable kill that I do remember.
Cool kill.
Yeah.
But when I rewatched it there last year, the year before, it was just I didn't find it as entertaining as the first time when I was younger. I think because I'd heard about it on the documentary and stuff.
Yeah.
But by no means, there's stuff in it that's great. As you say, with the deer and stuff, and the guy bobsledding down the hill and he gets decapitated and stuff. But just overall, it's just I can see why it's popular, and people are probably coming off, hearing about it. It was this big controversial thing. Columbia pulled it and stuff, and it's fine. People like it. It's, for me, it's an okay film, but I don't think it's way up there.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. That's right. Again, because I know it came out on Blu-ray just a little while ago. I was actually contemplating buying it, actually, because it's just been such a long time since I've seen it. And there's about 9 million sequels, aren't there, as well?
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, so an overlooked one now, in my opinion, which now I think, again, among the diehard slasher fans, this has a fan base. But at the same time, I've recently been speaking to a lot of horror fans that have not heard of this film. 83 Curtains. This is a slasher film I like. I like the whole idea of it, the concept, all of these women vying for the same role in this film, and they're being bumped off one by one. There's a great kind of a creepy sense of atmosphere to it and that. And, much like Halloween, it's not reliant on gore or anything like that. It has what is probably the creepiest, certainly one of the creepiest masks ever seen in a horror film, in my opinion. This is a film that I'd like to come on Blu-ray in the UK at some point. Yeah. And I think it's just one of them slasher films that got kind of lost in the shuffle. It's just one that kind of flew under the radar. It was released at a time when slasher films were coming out left, right, and centre. And this is one that went by kind of unnoticed. Are you a fan of this one?
Love Curtains. Love it.
Cool.
Again, it was one that I actually came to know about it. Browsing YouTube, and I seen the ice skating scene on YouTube. Yeah. And I seen it, and it was late at night, and my hair stood on end as soon as I seen that mask, and I was like, Jesus, what? And then it was kind of like, right, I got to see this film. And as you say, it was really hard to get a hold of.
Yeah.
Till I finally got a DVD from France, I think.
Okay.
I don't have it anymore, but it was like an import, but you could play it in English and stuff. And I watched it, and I was amazed at how good it was. It was so good.
Yeah.
And as you say, the pacing works, and I love that setup, as you say, of the women auditioning.
Yeah,
the movie and
I
stuff,
like the fact that we see the woman in the institute. We get kind of a bit. Now, I know some people, like you said with Silent Night, Deadly Night, some people don't like that build-up. They find it too slow-paced and all that and whatever. Yeah. But the movie, without going into spoilers, the movie clearly points its finger at who's the killer here.
Yeah.
and I thought it was quite a nice little reveal. And
It was.
Lynn Griffin in it was actually in another horror film that we might talk about. She was in another slasher movie like many years before.
Yes.
But yeah, Curtains, it's a good
great.
slasher. Yeah.
It is. And you've John Vernon.
Oh, yes. Who my all-time favourite film role of his, though, is Officer Mooney from Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Great role. Yeah.
You're not going to make a dummy out of me. You know, great bit of foreshadowing there. So,
it is. And Samantha Agar from The Brood.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 So, yeah, what's an overlooked one for you, then? Underrated, overlooked.
Now, this is one that... This is an interesting one, actually, because I have heard from a small minority of people who would maybe say, and this is bold, I don't think I'd maybe go this far, but it's certainly a really good film. They have said that this is actually better than Friday the 13th.
Oh, I know. Okay. Yeah, I know what you're going to say. Was it released in 81 by any chance?
It was.
Yes.
And it's a film called Just Before Dawn.
Oh, no. Okay, sorry. No, I thought of a different... No, I was...
You want to say The Burning?
Yes.
You want to say The Burning? Okay. I have The Burning down as an honourable mention. Have you seen Just Before Dawn?
Yes, but again, it's been a while. It's one that I need to rewatch. I've heard actually a lot of great things about it.
It's a great film.
But it's one that I need to own. It's probably been at least 10 years since I've seen this movie, shockingly. But yeah.
Okay. I remember reading about it in a horror book that I had, and it was kind of like, and I kind of said to myself, maybe this is really like Friday the 13th and stuff. You know? But then, you know, it was getting a lot of good stuff said about it, and I was kind of like, okay, I'll check it out. And again, so many of these are so hard to pick up.
Yeah.
So finally, a few years ago now, you know, the 88 slasher collection on Blu-ray, you get with the red box.
Yeah.
They had it, and I managed to get it online. Now it goes for an astronomical amount. I mean, it's ridiculous now.
Yeah.
But I finally got it. It was a nice transfer, and I watched it, and I was so struck at actually how great it is. It is genuinely creepy. They really kind of do the whole kind of, you know, like the people kind of say, you know, the backwoods people, you know, they kind of think of like Deliverance and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas I really liked what they've done with this film in terms of, you know, they were so inbred and so kind of like deformed, you know. And I actually remember saying, like, this is what you really should do when you want to do a film like this, you know, because usually they do it and then the people look fine.
Yeah.
You know, they just look crazy, you know, whereas kind of like this actually really does work. And it has George Kennedy. Bless his soul, as the
Naked
great George
Gun.
Kennedy. Naked Gun. There you go.
Ed, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it excuse me, and it has an old or a very young what's his name? He always plays cops. Is it Clark Gregg? You know Clark Gregg?
The name's not ringing a bell.
I think any younger audiences watching this will know him. He was actually Peter Quill's grandfather.
Oh, okay.
Guardians, when he was in Slither. Do you ever see the James Gunn film Slither?
The 2006 film, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
He's in that. Yeah, you would know him to see. Has a young him in that. But obviously, again, it has one of those endings, you know, where you're just kind of like, you know, you're just in awe of what they do and stuff, you know. It has some good kills in it.
Yeah.
You know, there's a scene in it where the inbred guys, they trap one of the teenagers in like a little church, like a little shack.
Yeah.
And it is one of the most creepiest things I've ever seen in one of those films. It is really, really skin crawling. I actually really, it's like, ugh.
Yeah. It's a film I do need to track down. I've been wanting to see it. I've been looking on YouTube and that, and they haven't got the film on there. They've just got the trailer and snippets and scenes and that. But yeah, I remember very little. actually,
Okay.
which is quite shocking, actually, because usually my memory is quite good for films. But I think maybe I watched it really late at night. I wasn't fully invested at the time, maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm definitely going to. I might have to track it down because it's not had a UK Blu-ray release, has it?
No,
No.
not
Okay.
yet. No.
Yeah. So yeah, well, I'm going to do another because like you, I've got. I mean, there are way too many films to get through. There's loads.
Yeah.
We could sit here doing a 15-hour podcast.
Easily.
I've got loads here. Now, another one that I want to talk about that is, I think, overlooked.
Okay.
Again, I do know some people that really like this, but again, I just don't feel like it gets talked about that much. And this was also released in '83, and that is The House on Sorority Row.
Oh, okay.
Which I think is one of them slasher films, relatively low budget and whatnot, but it's a film it's filmed and made so well. I believe it was the London Philharmonic Orchestra that actually composed the score as well. So it's a film that actually presents itself to be bigger than what it actually is. And I actually think it's one of the better slasher films of the era. But again, it doesn't really get a huge amount of attention. I'll admit, I think the 2009 remake is actually quite good as modern slasher movie remakes go. But this is one I've always liked. I've always liked this film. Again, with the suspense emphasis. It's not outright gory or anything like that. I love the climax of the film. The killer I won't go into spoilers, but the killer dons a certain costume at the end of the film. Is this a slasher film that you like?
Yes. Again, it was one that it was actually reversed for me. I actually heard of the remake first.
Okay.
And when I heard it, I just kind of said, okay, this is a remake of an 80s movie because it just had that title, Sorority Row. And then so I kind of worked backwards. And again, I was very surprised at how polished, let's say, the film is. It's very polished. Music's great.
Yeah.
And again, the characters are likable. Which it's very 50-50 in a comes to these because you can get really characters that you're like, don't kill.
Yeah.
And then your characters you're like, get rid of them.
Its cover, depending what cover you've got, basically looks like a softcore porn film. If you actually see the cover to it, you would not think it's a horror movie. It actually looks like a softcore porn film. So what's an overlooked one for you now then?
Okay. Now this one, when we announced that we were going to do this, a friend of yours, I think it was Nick, mentioned this film, and it was one that it did get a UK Blu-ray release a few years ago, and I picked it up because I remember seeing it on Power Channel way back when, and again, very polished, very kind of so serious. 1982's Visiting Hours.
Okay, this is one I haven't seen. As you know, this is the only film thus far that I haven't seen. So yeah.
Okay, I'll take the reins. Do you know what? And that's fine because it is one that's again it's very buried under all of these other films. So basically, Michael Ironside, the great actor that he is, Lee Grant.
Yeah.
Again, people are kind of like, really, Lee Grant? And then people forget she was in Omen too.
Oh, yeah. Which is quite an underrated sequel, actually, I think.
Yeah. And of course, the vacuum charisma that is William Shatner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, you heard that right, William Shatner.
Yeah.
It's a film that it is a slasher film, but it's trying to be kind of, it wants to say something, about the treatment of women and stuff. I won't go into it, but I mean, kind of like if people heard that today, they would kind of go, they might be put off by it. But for me, it really works. Like Lee Grant is great in it, great actress anyway, but she's really good in it. But yeah, Michael Ironside's the real highlight because like he does play, obviously people have seen Scanners and stuff, but I would maybe argue that he is actually more unhinged in this than he is in Scanners.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, now I know that's quite a feat to say.
Yeah.
But if anybody has seen Visit Mars or when you see it yourself, you will understand why he is a lot more creepier in it.
Yeah. Scanners is one of my favourite Cronenberg films, by the way.
Scanners is amazing.
I do like Scanners.
That's so great.
So is Visiting Hours, I'm assuming, is it set in a hospital?
Yes. So you have the setup where you kind of get to know Lee Grant's character. She's kind of like this outspoken person on telly, and stuff.
Yeah.
And basically, Michael Ironside has this thing where, she just really angers him and stuff, and it's just kind of like, he goes to kill her.
Yeah.
But I can say that's not really spoilers. But she survives and she's brought to the hospital, but he finds out that she's not dead. So,
yeah,
he decides to go and finish the job, so to speak. There is some, like, big horror films like this, they will kind of maybe say like little subtle nods to maybe Halloween 2.
Okay.
Kind of like with shadows going along hospital walls and stuff,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of the better, I don't know about this slasher films, kind of, because there's ones people don't know about and they're trash.
Yeah.
But this one is genuinely worth looking out for. It really is. It's a really good film.
Okay, cool. I'll see if that's on YouTube, because YouTube's become my new best friend over the last few.
I'm sure it'll be on somewhere. Yeah.
Now, another overlooked one for me. Now, I say overlooked, this almost didn't get on there because I do know a lot of people that like this. And this is, I will say this now, this is one of my personal favourite slasher films from the Golden Age. And this is the other one that was released in 1980, same year as Prom Night. Terror Train.
Okay.
Now, Terror Train, I love the sense of claustrophobia that this film has.
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis, again, I think she'd really cemented herself as a scream queen at this point. I love the whole concept of the film, the killer actually going from costume to costume.
Yeah.
I think the setting of the train is what really makes this film stand out from so many other slasher films of the period. The reason I say it's overlooked, because obviously it's not the big name that Halloween is. It's not the big name that Friday the 13th is. But I know a lot of slasher fans do like this movie, but I still don't think it gets quite enough attention, in my opinion.
No.
So is it... Well, it's one of them. I mean, I'll admit, I was about 18, 19 years old when I first watched it. I was kind of late to the party, if you will. And I heard it mentioned in Scream, Sidney Prescott actually mentions it. And I thought to myself, oh, that's a horror film I've not heard of. And I tracked it down and I really liked it.
Yeah.
Much like Halloween, the emphasis on it's not really a film for the kills. I mean, the kills, it's more the suspense, it's the setting, the sense of claustrophobia. Exactly. That's to me is this film's big selling point.
Exactly.
Do you like Terror Train?
I love Terror Train, and I would probably, this is my time to get killed. I would probably say if you put that up against Prom Night, I'd probably take Terror Train.
Oh yeah, I prefer it. Yeah, I personally prefer Terror Train.
I love the fact that the killer, like, costume to costume to costume, plus that even adds to the mystery of actually who he is.
Yeah.
So that just keeps that ball going.
A nice little reveal. A nice little reveal at the end. Yeah.
But yeah, I really agree with you on the sense of just sheer claustrophobia, because you can't get, once that train goes, that's it. You cannot get up. I really think Jamie Lee's really good in it. Now, she's great in everything, but I really think there's moments in it where she really says to herself, okay, you're on a train, he is coming, and you can't get off.
Yeah.
Because whereas in Halloween, she's, she can run outside, on Prom Night, she can run, whereas this, she cannot go anywhere.
Yeah. And her screaming is just as great in this.
Exactly.
In that final act, that cat and mouse between her and the killer, her screaming is... I mean, Halloween is the film that brought her to the big screen. That's the film that made her a star. And this just carried her on to becoming that scream queen that we all know.
Exactly.
And Roger Spottiswood's directorial debut obviously went on to do, you know, Tomorrow Never Dies, Pierce Brosnan's second Bond film. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't he direct the 99 film, Pierce Brosnan, the Thomas Crown Affair?
I think he did.
Did he direct
the
remake?
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty certain he went on to direct that.
I know he done Turner and Hooch.
Turner and Hooch, yeah, released in '89. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's an overlooked one for you now?
Oh, okay. Okay. Now this is one that again not many people have seen it. It's actually a TV movie.
Okay.
Released in 1981 called Dark Night of the Scarecrow.
Yes, very good. Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I have. Yeah, I think it's it's very good, and I agree. It's overlooked.
Very overlooked. Again, I was reading a horror book about just trying to pick films up that I've never seen, and it came up, and I remember seeing a quote that Vincent Price had seen it.
Yeah.
And he actually said, "This genuinely terrified me." And I was like, right, if Vincent Price says that, then, you got to say it, Yeah. And then obviously, again, a really good cast, Larry Drake, Charles Duran, Ian Smith, all these great actors in it.
Mm.
And again, it was so hard to get here in the UK. So I think I actually seen it first online, and then they eventually did bring it out on DVD, and I picked up and I watched it again, and it's so good in its suspense. Like,
yeah.
It was actually a film that I actually really got emotional at the fact over Laurie Drake's character. The fact that I actually really got a similar thing with Frankenstein.
Oh, right, yeah.
And the little girl, and Lynch, I just love that kind of like, parallel, things to them.
Yeah.
But there's a scene and it does this thing where it's not overly explicitly gory.
Mm.
Now, there's slashing elements in it, but there's a scene in it where I think it's perfect and it really, really creeps me out, which was when Ian Smith, who people will know played Perry White in Lois and Clark.
Yeah.
He is on his farm and he's chatting to his wife, and she says, "Tell him, oh, you finally picked the Scarecrow out." And he's like, "What?" And she goes,
yeah.
"Look." And way in the distance is the Scarecrow, and it is one of the most creepiest things ever. And it's, and it's just a Scarecrow on a field, but obviously we know what it is, and it's that type of a feeling, and I think that really complements the actual slasher elements to it, because you're already creeped out, and then when something violent happens, you're like, oh, it actually builds it up and pays it off.
Yeah.
And it actually makes you, you want the guys to be killed, as morbid as that sounds, because they are genuinely nasty guys in the film. Which is, again, it's rare. You do get kind of rough and ready guys in horror movies and stuff, but these guys are so despicable. You actually genuinely hate them.
Yeah, yeah.
So you
consider it's a TV movie as well. We consider this as a TV film, much like not to compare the two, but Duel 1971, a TV film.
Exactly.
It goes to show you, just because something's a TV film, it can transcend beyond. Because I know Duel later got a theatrical release, didn't it? It proved to be a popular film. And but yeah, speaking of scare, because I know a lot of people actually do find scarecrows quite creepy and that.
Yeah.
One of the creepiest scarecrows I've seen, and this isn't something that's outright scary as a show as a whole, is in Supernatural. There's an episode involving a scarecrow. That scarecrow in that episode is a really creepy looking scarecrow.
That's creepy.
That they got for that episode. But yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. Dark Knight the Scarecrow, very good horror film. It doesn't really get talked about a huge amount.
It really doesn't.
Right, and overlook now. I'm thinking out the box now, because I'm choosing a film that I'm not saying is great. I think it's fun. I think it's enjoyable. and I don't know many people that have seen it. And this is a horror comedy. At its core, it is a slasher film. It was released in 2004, and it's called Broken Lizards Club Dread. No?
I know of it, but I have never seen it.
Bill Paxton's in it. Bill Paxton.
That's the reason right there.
Bill Paxton is Coconut Joe. This is a film that doesn't take itself seriously, but they're being bumped off one by one. I enjoy it. It's not one of the best horror comedies ever made or anything like that. The reason I'm putting it on the list is I just think more people should watch it. I think more people need to see this film. I don't want to go into spoilers. There's a scene involving Pac-Man. They're running about actually in a Pac-Man maze, and one of them gets killed. They're one of the fruits in Pac-Man. Yeah, it's just a good, fun little slasher film that's, as I say, it's a comedy. But they're being bumped off one by one by a costumed killer. I'd say it's worth checking out. If you like your horror comedies and stuff, it's worth a watch.
Again, I know of it. I haven't seen it, and I know there's going to be people watching this, and they're going to go, "Really, a film that Joe has never seen?" It's happened.
Well, in all honesty, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you can be the biggest film buff on the planet, but there's always going to be things you haven't seen. It is impossible to watch everything. It really is. Exactly. I mean, I will admit, 12 Angry Men, not a horror movie, 1957's 12 Angry Men, one of my all-time favourite films now. I only saw it for the first time about 7 or 8 years ago. I'm ashamed to admit that. But it's an absolute classic. But yeah, Club Dread, Broken Lizards, Club Dread. Good little fun little slasher movie.
Okay, I gotta see this.
But yeah, 2004. All right, have you got any more overrated?
I have 2.
Okay. What's one of them?
Left. Okay. Now this one is probably, people know of it, but it's not. People probably know of this by its remake more than its original.
Okay.
1979's When a Stranger Calls.
Okay, interesting. Because
did you have it written down?
Yeah. No, because again, it's one of them films I've never classified as a slasher movie.
Okay.
But no, again, it's kind of like, it was a film that I thought about for this podcast. I did think about it, and I thought to myself, is it a slasher? So this is overrated in your view?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I did sit and really tried to get the grips of, is it technically a slasher film? And I did rewatch it so I could add it to the list. There is moments of slasher elements in it. It's not like Halloween, but I did check it out, and then I asked someone, would you class this as a slasher? And they said, yeah. Okay. So I said, okay, now this is the thing. For me, I love the first 20 minutes. It's amazing. You cannot touch it. It's perfect. After the 20 minutes is gone, for like the next 70 to 75 minutes, it's so boring. I mean, it's incredible. I'm sorry to the fans, like it is. When I was watching it, and I've watched interviews with Fred Walton that directed it and stuff, and he's so proud of the film, and yes, he should be, because that first 20 minutes, phenomenal. It always appears on horror lists and stuff, and scary moments and that. But it's the type of film that it was like, if they knew to make Urban Legend in the 70s, that first 20 minutes would have been great, and then they could have moved on to something else. Yeah. I do give them credit for trying to broaden it out, and have the guy kind of terrorize other people and then come back to Carl Ken and all this. But it's so boring. I mean, you have the guy, I'm sorry, but you have the guy go until the bar with Colleen Dewhurst, and he's trying to, hey. And she's like, piss off. And then he follows her. And then they bring Charles Duran, and who I love, bless him.
Yeah.
And then it's him trying to track him down. And then it's him walking along streets. And it was like, oh dear God, this is just,
I'm starting to get the impression, I might be wrong here, but I don't think you're a big fan of the film, are you?
No, I'm a big fan of the first 20 minutes. Yeah. Let's say it. Yeah. But after that, it's, oh, geez. Yeah, I am a much bigger fan. If anybody doesn't know this, I'm sure you do. That Fred Walton actually made a sequel, a TV movie sequel. Yeah,
When a Stranger Calls Back.
Calls Back. Much better.
With Jill Schoelen.
Much better. With Jill Schoelen.
A great opening. Again, a great opening. When a Stranger Calls, okay, for me, I love the opening. You know, it has one of the best openings from any horror film. I'll admit, the movie, it loses momentum. Certainly, you know, the whole, you know, the middle act of the movie, it kind of picks up in the final act, obviously, when obviously he's in her house. Yeah. But unfortunately, the rest of the movie doesn't match up to the first part.
No.
That said, I don't hate it. What we get in this film is a villain that's... this is where I feel conflicted, actually, because he's a child killer.
Yeah.
He commits a horrendous act at the beginning of this movie, but he's played so sympathetically in the film. It's like he's so pathetic. He's so, like, I almost pity him. Like, there's scenes where that guy's bullying him at the bar and all that, and he's... But I have to keep reminding myself, this guy's a child killer. Yeah. And obviously the film pays a big focus on him, doesn't it, during the course of the movie and that. So, no, I agree. It's... Unfortunately, the rest of the movie can't hold up and match up to the opening 20 minutes of the movie.
It really can't.
I actually do, I think, prefer When a Stranger Calls Back, which again has a great opening. That opening creeped me the hell out when I first watched it. Look into the living room. Yeah. And she looks there and you realise how he's been able to engineer this, how later on in the film, how he's pulled this off and that. It's really creepy
as hell.
And you've actually made me want to bring up, this isn't a film that I was going to talk about, but I'm going to put it in there now because this film was also directed by Fred Walton, and this was released in '86, and that is April Fool's Day.
Fool's Day, yeah.
I really like April Fool's Day. It is one of my favourite slasher movies from that time period. Now, I realise there's people out there, and people have said this to me, it's not a slasher film. It's not a slasher movie because nobody dies. To me, this film still is. It's very much in the mold of a slasher film. It's a very Agatha Christie-esque vibe to it. April Fool's Day. And I think it's the ending to this movie, the twist that really makes this film stand out from the crowd. I really enjoy this movie. A great score again by Harry Manfredini, Friday the 13th. And again, I know that there's a lot of people out there that like this movie, but at the same time, again, it doesn't really get talked about a huge amount, not in comparison to some of the other slasher films out there.
No.
What's your thoughts, April Fool's Day?
Do you know what? I seen it not too long after When a Stranger Calls, because obviously Fred Walton done the same film. I actually really enjoy it. I chuckle at it because it's to me, it's like an 80s version of Scream, where they're just trying to go, they're trying to wink to the audience and stuff. Yeah, I have been in the room with people that go, it's not slasher. They just out and out just like want to fist me and go, it's not. And it's like, it is, but it's not. It's a strange one to kind of put your finger on. It is.
Yeah. To me, it is. I will always see it as a slasher movie. I realise that nobody dies, etc. Plot. I mean, at the end of the day, audiences are far more savvy now. I think the clue's in the title, April Fool's Day. I think we can all work out. But it's still, it's just in the perfect mold of a slasher film. They're disappearing one by one. It's clearly very Agatha Christie-esque as well. And to me, it's a slasher film.
Exactly. And I love the fact that you've actually said, people nowadays, they get it. And that's been the thing with a lot of films, people then pick up on them years later. The fact that I think people didn't like that they were being duped.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They came in to see, quote unquote, a slasher film, and they in their minds they didn't get it.
Yeah.
They felt like it was like, no, this isn't what we see, So that's kind of what I say to people who kind of, they kind of say, I didn't really like it. It's like, but did you expect to go in seeing blood and gut, the traditional elements?
Yeah.
And they kind of go, yeah. And it's like, you see, it's not that. You should have been.
It's that aspect that makes it stand out for me.
Exactly.
It's that aspect.
Exactly. It's a good film.
What's an overlooked one for you then?
Oh, okay. Okay. So now this is one that's probably gonna surprise you, because you would probably maybe say, oh, okay. But I think I really hope that when August comes with the new film coming, the people are going to actually start to go back and look at the original of this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I know.
Yeah, what's coming.
Was it released in 92?
It was indeed, sir.
Directed by Bernard Rose.
It wasn't. Yeah, you're all
Candyman.
like, yes. Candyman. There you go. For me, Candyman is, not to make this into a big pun, but it's almost like a myth in the horror community where people kind of go, oh yeah, that movie Candy, it's, you have to kind of mention it, people kind of go, oh yeah, I think it's severely overlooked. I really, really do, because when I was young, one of my nieces used to torment me with Candyman, and I was so scared, and that stayed with me. And then when I got older, and then I was kind of getting into horror and stuff and slashers and stuff, and I was kind of like, what was that film that used to terrify me? And it was actually my grandma was like, oh, Candyman stuff, and so I kind of went and looked at it. And funny enough, the first film that I actually seen was the second one, which was Farewell to the Flesh.
Yeah, it was 95, wasn't it?
95.
Yeah.
Because the first Candyman for ages here was hard to get. I don't know whether it was a right thing or not, but it was really hard to get. You could only get 2. So finally they released the first one, and I seen it, and I absolutely adored it. I mean, it is so good, and I have heard a few people, I don't know them anymore because we unfriended it when they said this, but they said it was slow and boring.
Oh,
yeah.
You don't need that kind of negativity in your life.
No, you don't. So it's like, bye, baby.
Yeah.
But I really, to me, the pacing is phenomenal. It's so good. I mean, you have that opening with Ted Raimi.
Yeah.
And the girl's Helen, Virginia Madsen, this, and it's amazing. It's you're so hooked into it.
Nice pun there. Hooked.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm on the ball now.
I'm here all night. But I love when people tell stories in horror, because see, when something is told about the main character like that, it sets it up completely. Yeah. For me, the only 2 times that for me it really works brilliantly is in Candyman, and then when Dr. Chilton is bringing Clarice down to meet Hannibal.
All right,
and he's telling him about, the nurse and stuff, and he had her coming up. You're so hyped up. Yeah. So by the time you're actually confronted with the subject, you're so heightened. And I think that is so well done. It's been done times and it doesn't work. Yeah. You're kind of like, really? Is that it? But when it's done to perfection, when you are really invested in it, it works completely. I mean, like anybody that I've shown Candyman that's never seen it, and they see that opening, they are so into it. They're like, okay, I like this. I can relate to this. Oh, no,
carry on, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that I really love the score to this film by Philip Glass. Yeah, it's haunting and beautiful at the same time. And, I did a top 10 90s horror films podcast recently. You'll be pleased to know Candyman was in there.
I listened, yes, I was so happy.
Candyman was in there. I can't remember where I put it now. I think it might have been 8th or 9th. It was in there, though.
Yeah, it was up there. Yeah.
But no, it's a film that, after watching it, I was probably 12 years old. Obviously, I was 10 years old when the film was released. I couldn't say Candyman 5 times in a mirror for a long time.
Yeah.
What I love about it, at its core, it's kind of a love story as well.
Exactly.
At its core, it's about forbidden love. And I agree. I don't know many people personally, that I've spoke to, that don't like it. So it's interesting that you've met people that find it. Yeah, most people I know like Candyman. Tony Todd just cemented himself as a horror icon.
Yeah.
Now,
phenomenal.
An overlooked one here. And this is the most... Actually, no. I was going to say this is the most recent. I'm going to try and get through these films short and sweet now because there's still a few to go. I'm not sure if we're up to the 4-hour mark yet. But, okay, so now this one was released in 2015. I think this is good fun. I like the concept of this film. I like the whole idea of this film. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called The Final Girls.
Yes, I have seen it. Yes.
I just like the whole idea. I like the concept.
This
girl gets transported into a slasher film from the 80s where her mum was the scream queen of the movie.
Yeah.
And I just like how it puts a spin on the whole again. It's postmodern horror comedy. I just thought it was fun. I thought it was it was an interesting little concept of a film. I don't think it's one of the best slasher films or anything like that of all time or anything. But it's one, again, that I just know a lot of people that haven't seen it. It didn't really get a huge amount of attention, I don't feel, when it was released. It had a very limited release in the UK. Very limited release.
Very limited,
You've seen this yet? Did you think it was kind of fun?
I actually really did enjoy it. I actually picked it up on DVD.
Okay.
That was in my HMV. And I remember reading it. And I actually, just from reading the synopsis on the back, it was like, this sounds really cool,
Yeah.
And then when I got home and I watched it, and it was kind of like, in a strange way, I kind of said, this is another Scream, in terms of it was just trying to reference all these movies in a fun way, But I love that whole idea of her being transported back into the films,
Getting to see her mum, who is the character in the film.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's very meta. And I'll tell you what it did do, right? One of my favourite 80s songs made a bit of a comeback with this film. Betty Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes.
Oh, yeah.
I remember because it plays in this film.
Yeah.
Towards the end, and it just had me listening to that song over and over again afterwards. I think it's a fun little movie. My fiance watched it for the first time a few months ago. She really enjoyed it. It's the whole idea, it's the concept really that I really liked.
That's fun.
So what's an overlooked one for you then?
Okay, now this one, I know it was actually mentioned when we were saying we were going to do this again, and it was kind of like, it was strange to me. Oh, I'm going to put it down. Urban Legend.
Okay, yeah, that is one that I've actually got on there. I do enjoy it. Again, I like the whole kind of concept of the film. It was a slasher film that was trying to do something a little different.
Yeah. For me, you'll probably laugh at this. This is what When a Stranger Calls should have done, It's what Fred should have done, if you need to do it,
Yeah.
But no, again, the film starts with one of the most pitch perfect scares. The guy in the back seat.
The opening is one of the greatest openings in the history of slasher movies. Yeah. It does have a great opening.
And it has a very fun cameo by a guy at the gas station.
Brad Dourif.
But I just love visually. I just love the rain and stuff, and then you kind of see the hood and
yeah.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And then obviously, of course, we have the legendary Mr. Robert Englund.
Yeah,
making a cameo.
Professor Wexler.
Yeah,
I believe his name is.
What a name.
Prime suspect. Kind of like, I think when I was first watching it, I think he was my kind of prime suspect in this movie.
It's everything Robert Englund, and it's like, it's him.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just see his wife going, oh, for God's sake, really? You're being stitched up, and then obviously a young Jared Leto.
Yeah.
Pre-American Psycho.
Yeah.
For me, I actually love the way they blend the urban legends with the mystery elements.
Yeah.
I really like some really cool deaths, and I love the principal, the dean.
Oh right,
yeah, and in the car, yeah. I think that's great. I really like the payoff at the end, up in the tower. Yeah, I think is phenomenal. For me, it doesn't get talked about because it's really overshadowed by Scream.
Yeah,
and I Know What You Did Last Summer. They just kind of like cover it.
Well, I love Scream, as you know. I absolutely love. I know some people would say Scream's overrated. That's fair enough. Mm-hmm. I absolutely love Scream. I think that film has a fantastic screenplay by Kevin Williamson. I think it's so incredibly well written. I prefer Urban Legend to I Know What You Did Last Summer, and that causes controversy. I like I Know What You Did Last Summer. I do like it. Yeah. It's very much a slasher film that's in the mold of them 80s slasher films. If we go back to the likes of Prom Night and House on Sorority Row, they were kind of the precursors for I Know What You Did Last Summer. But Urban Legend, I like that it did do something new. Okay, it's following the footsteps of Scream, which is a much better movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll admit with Urban Legend, at the end of the day, you've always got to suspend belief with these kind of films. But for these murders to happen, all of the little cogs have to perfectly fit into place.
Yeah.
How did she know they was going to run out of petrol? How did they know the guy was going to have a stutter? All that kind of thing. But no, I enjoy it. I think it's a fun slasher movie.
It is. As you say, it gets buried with the others.
Yeah. All right. Now, an overlooked one. This is the most modern one on the list. Okay. So there's probably a lot of people out there that maybe haven't seen this. Now, this has been on Netflix for quite a while. I bought this on DVD upon release, not expecting anything. It was straight to DVD, and I'm thinking, and it's got Tony Todd in it, and this is a slasher movie called Hellfest.
Yes.
Set at an amusement park, like a haunt. I enjoyed this. I thought, again, considering this was a straight-to-DVD feature, I think it might have had a very limited release in the US. I thought this was very polished. I thought this was quite well made for what it was. And I like the setting of it, and I like the ending to it.
The ending was very good.
Ending is, well, I'm not gonna say what it is in case people haven't seen it, but the ending I just like there's an air of mystery to it, let's just say that. But yeah, I thought Hellfest was certainly one of the better, straight to DVD slasher flicks out there.
Absolutely.
So you liked it then, yeah?
I liked it. I seen it on Netflix. I was just kind of flicking along, and I was kind of like, okay. And then Mr. Tony Todd, it was like, sold.
Yeah.
Where I went, and I loved it. I loved the cinematography of it.
Yeah.
It added just all the right moods that it needed to do. It kept me invested. I liked the characters. But yeah, the ending was kind of like, okay, I like that.
Yeah. Because it showed like the world without going into it or anything, it's it has quite the ending. I think once you've seen the ending, it's not an ending you'd forget, really.
No.
It kind of, so have you got another overlooked?
I have one left.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to stop. I was like, no, we could be.
That's the problem. We just got to say to the listeners out there, there are way more. There are way more. I'm just going to throw some out. I'm going to throw some out here that I'm not going to get time to talk about. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So The Collector, technically not a slasher movie per se. It's arguable. 2009. I think it's a good film.
That's good fun.
Again, now I'm not saying that this is great, but I kind of enjoy it. Valentine 2001.
It's fun. Yeah.
I enjoy it. Again, it's in the mold of them old school slasher films, like I Know What We Did Last Summer. Okay, this is one that I might talk about, actually. I'm not sure. No, actually, I won't. Student Bodies, slasher movie spoof.
I enjoyed Student Bodies, yeah.
Again, it's not great or anything like that, but more people need to see it, because this was spoofing horror and slashers way before Scary Movie did.
Yeah.
This wasn't the big success that Scary Movie was. This was released at a time when it was released right during the myth of all these, slasher movies being churned out. And another one I want to say, some people call this a giallo. I always saw it more of a slasher movie, released in 1987, and it's called Stage Fright.
I like Stage Fright, yeah.
Directed by Michael Suavi. This film's quite brutal in places, and I actually like the setting to it. And the killer wears an owl mask as well, quite a unique mask. I think they're all slasher films that are quite often overlooked. I'm going to say one here that I think is very underrated. Okay. And I think we've discussed this. I think I know why it didn't do well, and that's Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Yeah. I love it.
So good.
But so again, good. I think it's divisive. I think that when it was released in 94, maybe people just didn't get it. It was too meta for its own good. And, obviously Wes Craven proving he could do postmodern a couple of years before Scream. I know some people that love it, but I also know a lot of people that really don't take to it either.
Yeah, I can see why. But I think it's a masterpiece. Yeah, I think it's great.
I think it's great. As you say, just very inventive. It's just kind of a great slice of postmodern horror. And what's your other overlooked?
Well, it's actually one that you actually thought I was going to say earlier, and it was 1981's The Burning.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Just because I was chatting to a friend of mine recently about stuff, and he recently had rewatched it, and here's me, The Burn. I do think that along with Just Before Dawn, I think it's another one of the better knockoff Friday the 13th, if you want to call it that. Now again, people have said, I've heard people say, well, it only works because of Tom Savini's score effects. I would disagree, because it has a really good villain in Cropsey. It really does, because many of the other knockoff films that we had, you really didn't have a villain. You maybe had a few people that were just crazy, but they didn't really leave a lasting impact, but for me, The Burning, there's something about it that's it's trying to be its own thing. Like, I think it knows that it's coming off Friday the 13th. So it's like, yes, we know this film exists, but we're trying to make it more of a campfire story.
Yeah.
We're trying to, make it like
it's an urban legend, isn't it? Cropsey
is an urban
legend, yeah.
Exactly. So that's one of the reasons why I think it works, because it's really trying to be its own thing. Yes, it has those, camp tropes, but as I say, Cropsey, is one, I think he's a very underrated horror icon. He gets so buried under all the other guys, Yes, the gore facts are amazing. Obviously, it's Tom Savini and stuff. Plus, there's a lot of really, really young, great actors in it. Jason Alexander.
And, of course, Holly Hunter. Which is kind of like an extended cameo almost, isn't it? Because she's like kind of more of a background kind of character, isn't she? No, I really like The Burning. The only reason I didn't put it on there was because I know so many people that love it. And among the horror slasher community, a lot of people talk about The Burning.
Okay.
And there's another film released in the same year that the only reason I didn't put it on there is because everyone I know that's a slasher fan loves it. My Bloody Valentine.
Love it. Yeah.
So that's the only reason I didn't put them on there, because I know that. So yeah, I'm with you. I think The Burning is a great slasher film, but that's the only reason I left it off. But yeah, no, I agree. The raft scene is worth watching it alone for, isn't it? You know, the raft sequence, some top-notch gore effects of.
It's really good.
Yeah. So now you've got one more overrated, haven't you?
I do actually. Now this is one that's probably going to take you by surprise, and this is one that you laughed when I said, you know.
Give me the year.
Okay, 1984.
Okay, so you got Nightmare on Elm Street that year. You're not going to say that's overrated.
No.
Silent Night, Deadly Night, 84 slasher movie. So there was Friday the 13th Part 4. That was 84. 84 slasher movie. No,
I think it's no. Okay, it's one that you're kind of go. You know, is it not? Children of the Corn.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. It's based on the Stephen King short story. Yeah. Okay. Children of the Corn. Then.
Okay. For anybody who missed or is just tuning in now and missed my delectable thoughts on When a Stranger Calls, it's about to be replayed with Children of the Corn. Great opening, you know, in the cafe, you know, with the parts and stuff, right? You see, once that ends, I am so sorry. I have tried to watch this film a number of times, and I swear to God, bless him. I mean, you have Linda Hamilton.
Yeah.
You know,
same year as Terminator as well, wasn't it? Terminator was also 84.
Yeah. I really like the kid that played Isaac, the young kid.
Oh,
yeah. And I love the guy from The Burbs. He's in a Courtney, you know, the guy with like the long ginger hair. He was later in The Burbs. Courtney.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Gaines or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. But outside of that, it is so dull. I am sorry. I really want to like it because I love Stephen King, big Stephen King fan. The book is obviously the book's better. Obviously, it's always the case usually. But this is just oh my God. Yeah, I mean, and then people kind of laugh. It's like, well, they killed all the parents at the start. There's nothing left, you know.
We're just going to say as well, just to the audience, just because we don't like something, if you like it, it's fair enough.
Exactly.
Sometimes certain films click for some people, they don't click for others.
Absolutely.
I know this film had about 15 million sequels, didn't it? There's a lot of Children of the Corn. I believe that Charlize Theron made her debut, or at least one of her earlier film in appearances in a Children of the Corn film, didn't she?
Yeah, she did indeed. Yeah, I think everyone and their grandmas.
Yeah. I will say this about Children of the Corn: I haven't watched it for a long time, so I can't sit here and agree or disagree. It has been a long time since I've seen that movie. But yeah, not from what I understand and remember, not one of the best King adaptations by a long shot or anything like that.
And it's a shame because I really wanted to like it. You know, I really liked the book. I really wanted to like it, but it's dull. It's just so dull. And again, listen, people laugh at me when I say it has its audience. Fair enough. People like it. That's the main thing. I'm happy people like it.
Yeah.
I wanted to like it. Sorry. I just no. Me and my pillow became acquainted.
All right. So I think I'm just going to bring up one more film. There are loads more. All right. There are loads.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I'll tell you what, right? There's one that I am going to bring up that I don't always see as a slash. It's a tough one. There's slasher elements to it, but it's also very giallo-esque. And this was directed by Alfred Soule, released in 1976.
Alice, Sweet Alice.
Alice, Sweet Alice. This is, again, now this is a movie. A lot of people that have seen it, I know, love this movie. But at the same time, it doesn't really get talked about much. It doesn't really get brought up that much. I really like this movie.
It's a really
I think
good
the
film.
mask is creepy. The yellow raincoat, it's kind of a whodunit, if you will. There's a good mystery aspect. I think it's a really good film.
It's very good. I really get, every time I see it, I really get a Don't Look Now vibe.
Yeah,
the
and it came
raincoat,
out just a few years after. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. For me personally, like, it's very daring in who it kills.
Yeah.
Because there is people in that you don't expect to get killed and they get killed. And you're like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
For me, one of the highlights is when Brooke Shields goes looking for Alice in the warehouse.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that, to me, I seen that and I was like, shit, you know.
Yeah.
It's so, and it's the setup, the way they do it is amazing.
Yeah, it's a good sense of atmosphere, isn't there?
Yeah.
And it's got one of the most despicable, what's the best term to use? That the big guy. The big guy that's a pervert.
Scum. Yeah.
Oh my god, he's just like,
he's horrendous.
You just want to have a shower after just seeing him, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, it's a good film. And
it's right.
There's another one that I want to. Oh, and quickly, I need to correct myself. Actually, when I said earlier about Thomas Crown Affair, I remembered afterwards. No, that was John McTiernan. That was the guy that directed Predator and Die Hard, two of the best action films of the 80s, in my opinion. I remembered a few minutes after, and I just wanted to bring it up. The Funhouse, released in 81.
Love Funhouse.
Again, it's one of them. I'm going to admit, I'm going to confess, when I first watched it, I thought it was okay. I didn't particularly care for it that much. But the more I've watched it, the more I've come to like it more and more. I appreciate it a lot more than what I did. I really like the setting for the film. The unique killer, if you will, the almost sympathetic killer. I kind of feel sorry for the killer in this movie.
Yeah.
In fact.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm guessing it's one that you like as well.
I love Funhouse. And actually, when I met Toby, yes, hate me, I met because everybody was there, you know, I was there, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
But when I was meeting him, and you couldn't stay too long, and I kind of said, Toby, listen, I absolutely love Funhouse. And there's a little smile.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, he loved it.
Yeah, because everyone thinks, don't they? Poltergeist and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, obviously. And not that it's a competition. You met Toby Hooper.
Okay.
I met George A. Romero.
So
we're one apiece.
One
each.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's good. No, that's
but yeah,
good.
The Funhouse. I feel like now the Funhouse. I feel now. Don't get me wrong. I'm not. I did a podcast, as you know, quite recently on remakes, worst and best.
Yes.
And the Funhouse, to me, not that it needs one or anything, it's one of them slasher films that could be remade.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
Not that it needs to. I'm not saying it needs to. I think it's a perfectly good film. But I feel because of all these slasher movie remakes we've had, everything from Halloween, Friday the 13th, you name it. To me, Funhouse is one of them. I'm not saying it would be good, but is one of them. But I'm surprised. I'm surprised it hasn't been picked up to be remade.
Yeah, I'm really sure that it's been on remake lists. But they've probably kind of said, it's not a name the majority of people aren't going to know.
Yeah, but saying that though, House on Sorority Row wasn't really
true.
But another one as well, Terror Train, getting back to one of the other slasher films we were talking about, because I don't know if you remember this, years ago they announced that Terror Train was going to be remade.
That's right, yeah.
And you know what? It ended up becoming a different film entirely almost. It became known as Train with Thora Birch, which was basically Hostel on a train.
Yeah.
Now, I was kind of intrigued at the time. I'm thinking, it doesn't need a remake. It's a perfectly good slasher film. But I remember being intrigued at the time, thinking, hang on a sec, a remake to Terror Train. But no, it ended up becoming another Hostel-esque movie. But yeah, I mean, that's one that I feel Funhouse doesn't really get talked about a huge amount.
No, again, you have to kind of go finding for it. Yeah.
Toby Hooper. Toby Hooper's name gets mentioned. We all think Texas Chainsaw Massacre
instantly.
and obviously Poltergeist. I think, to be honest, I mean, I'm just looking through some of the other films I've got here. The majority of which I brought up. I mean, if you want to call this a slasher movie, Psycho 2.
Yeah,
I think Psycho 2.
Yeah.
I think it's a great sequel.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. Love it.
And don't you feel like Hitchcock would have probably been turning in his grave at the thought of a sequel to Psycho? Because the original is a classic, and it's like, I feel Psycho 2 is a film that is actually a lot better than it had any real right to be.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one that, you would say sacrilege, how dare you?
Yeah.
But, okay, Tom Holland, come on.
Who actually wrote it, didn't he?
Yeah. And then you've got Richard Franklin, who done Road Games.
Yes.
Road Games?
Yeah.
So, and put those two guys together, you get Tony Perkins back. It's magic. It really is. It just worked.
Do you know what I love with this film as well? Because I love Psycho. I absolutely love Psycho. It's certainly one of the most iconic films of the genre. But what I like in this movie as well, it builds upon the character of Norman Bates. We get to see him in the psyche, and you really feel for him. All right, technically speaking, a villain, but he's such a sympathetic character. This is a man that's trying to put the shadows of his past behind him and try and rebuild his life. And the mother persona is just there looming the whole time. And I think it's a great sequel.
It's a really good sequel.
So
really good cast.
Yeah, with a good, I believe, was it Meg Tilly, Jennifer Tilly's sister, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I do apologise. I'm almost. There you go. Sorry, laptop almost went.
So
and I think that's pretty much it. My list of films.
I'm done. I could go on, but.
Yeah. We don't want to keep people watching for like 15 hours, do we? Do you know what I mean? It's
you don't want to do what I do when I watch When a Stranger Calls. You really don't.
But I have to quick honourable mention one other. I've just thought of another one.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
It was released in 1976, and it's actually based on real events, and it's The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Oh, great movie.
Yeah, doesn't really get talked about a huge amount. No. It had kind of a, what is it? Kind of a reboot / sequel, kind of. I don't know what you'd actually classify the film as. Because
it's a strange one.
It's kind of a reboot, but it follows in the footsteps of the original film many years later. But no, I like The Town That Dreaded Sundown. Again, an unsolved murder mystery to this day. Nobody knows who the Phantom of, I believe it was Texarkana, wasn't it? Where the killer was actually. Yeah. I think that's pretty much it then, man. I think we've covered a lot of films.
We are. Yeah.
I'm surprised I haven't actually been drinking more water than what I have, because my throat's actually going a bit.
Yeah.
It's been absolutely brilliant having you on here, man.
Oh, thank you.
You're certainly more than welcome to come on the next episode, whatever that's going to be. I'm sure we'll come up with something.
I'll be back.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger impression there, man. Britain's Got Talent for you, for definite.
No, it's bad. No, cut.
But yeah, so I just want to quickly give some shout outs actually to Richard Schmidt of Hello, This is the Doom Show. If you're into giallos, he's definitely a guy to go to. Matthew Barnett, Horror Theme, a guy that's helped me a lot actually with recent shout outs, etc. John Grand, part of Graves Graveyard as well. Zoe Crawford, YouTuber. Yourself as well. You've got your own YouTube channel, haven't you?
I do. That Movie Guy Joe. Yep. Check me out.
Yep, That Movie Guy Joe. And Horror in House of Salmons. I believe I've said that right as well. Also, Good Horror Podcast. That I believe covers pretty much all subgenres. So that's it. Yeah, that's it for today. Thanks a lot to everyone that listened. We hope you haven't been, offended by some of the films on these lists.
Please don't.
If I wake up in the morning and I see that I've got like 50 less subscribes, then, well, I don't know. I'm probably just going to like hold my head in shame, and hopefully it shouldn't be that bad though, should it, Joseph?
No, if I wake up in the morning and I am in a dark room with my eyelids like Alex, and there's a rerun of A Stranger Calls, I know I've offended someone.
Yeah. But yeah, at the end of the day, all art is subjective.
Absolutely.
I've said this before, if we all like the same things, the world would be a boring place. And I think when you've got different opinions, it makes for good discussion. Why someone likes something and why someone doesn't. And, you know, but that's it for today anyway. So thanks a lot to everyone that listened, and we'll be back again soon to haunt you and torment you. Take care.